What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So ever since that Metroid Dread reveal at E3, Metroid hype online has been through the roof, so much so that it's actually starting to affect sales on Nintendo's older systems. And yes, that does include the Wii U. We're going to talk about that one here today. Also, we are going to talk about reviews that went live yesterday for Mario Golf Super Rush, as it is kind of pointing out a bit of an issue that we've seen with some of these games from Nintendo so far this generation. And we're also going to be going over a rumor that is now starting to circulate online that may have actually leaked out a fairly big announcement ahead of time from Sony. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and hit the little notification bell so you can keep up to date with all the uploads that go up here on the channel. And we're going to start today with Microsoft, the Xbox, and Killer Instinct. It's a game that Microsoft had for the Xbox One at launch and for the most part supported it for most of the generation with different seasons and even going through 2 different developers. But since then, people have been wondering, will there be another Killer Instinct now that we're into the Xbox Series generation? Well, in a podcast, Phil Spencer did kind of talk a bit about Killer Instinct. This is what he had to say. There are so many good games in our catalog that we'd love to visit. The response when we redid Killer Instinct at the launch of the Xbox One was fantastic. I will just say Xbox Game Studios head Matt Booty and I have discussed many times Killer Instinct and where we would like to go with it. And it's not out of our minds, but it's in our hearts and in our minds that we want to continue to do something with Killer Instinct. It's about finding the right team and the right opportunity, but it is not due to any kind of lack of desire on our part that we're not doing more with Killer Instinct because we love the franchise and the community response. So for the Killer Instinct game now on the Xbox One and I guess the Series systems through backwards compatibility and all of that, they had actually used Double Helix and Iron Galaxy to get this game done through several seasons, but Double Helix is now with Amazon, and I don't know what Iron Galaxy is doing. Last I checked, I think they did Overwatch on the Switch. You know what would be interesting is if those rumors around maybe WB splitting up some of those studios and selling off, say, NetherRealms. Maybe Microsoft comes in, picks up NetherRealm, and give them a shot at Killer Instinct while they're also working on maybe another Mortal Kombat or Injustice. A lot of possibilities there, but I would like to see Killer Instinct make a return in some way now that we're into the next generation. Also, here's a strange bit of news. Pro Evolution Soccer 2022 just randomly got a demo yesterday. Now remember, Pro Evolution Soccer took last year off with Konami as they were moving from the Fox engine to the Unreal engine, and Eurogamer even tried the game out a bit. You can see some of their gameplay here that they posted up on YouTube, and this was named on the store New Football Game Online Performance Test. You can grab it on the PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and the Series X and S. You don't need PlayStation Plus or Xbox Live to check it out, and it's going to run until July 8th, and from what I can tell, this just looks like a way for them to test out the servers, and I assume the game itself and where it's crashing and what issues they would need to kind of patch up ahead of release, I guess, here towards the end of the year. I mean, the fact that they named it that way tells me they weren't that interested in advertising it necessarily, almost like they were wondering if people would just find it, try it out, and be like, oh, look, a soccer game, and they start playing through it, and they see the Konami logo, and they're like, wait, is this Pro Evolution Soccer on Unreal Engine? Either way, though, you can check it out for yourself, but as Konami says, kind of in the fine print, expect a lot of crashes, and basically everything you're seeing there is hopefully going to be spruced up a bit when we get to release because the visuals don't necessarily look great. Like I said, think of this as kind of an alpha program that they're running just to see how the game runs and stability online. Oh, and if you missed it, the Steam Summer Sale is now live. We can actually take a look at the front page here. It'll be running until July 8th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And one of the best deals I can see here immediately is Halo the Master Chief Collection. A ton of content here for $20. And like I said the other day, they continue to update this game as they go along with the online multiplayer. But even if you just look at it from like a campaign perspective, a ton of game to play there. But as Steam sales go, there are a ton of things to look through. You can see even like A Way Out at $7.50. Sekiro seeing 50% markdown to $30. And a lot of franchises are also on sale, like Darksiders having all of those prices slashed with Darksiders 3 down to $15, or Darksiders, the War Mastered Edition, that one's down to $5. So just go ahead and take a look and I guess fill out your backlog even more, like it really needs that. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Metroid Dread, announced at E3, got everyone really excited. I mean, it was cool to see a 2D Metroid game that was happening for Mercury Steam on the Switch after a lot of people saw Samus Returns and they were like, why isn't this on the Switch? Well, here we go. We're getting that 2D Metroid game here in a couple of months, and then they flash up the Dread logo, and that was it for a lot of longtime Metroid fans. But it does look like the excitement of Metroid Dread is starting to carry over to some of the older titles, and where can you find those older titles? Well, on the Wii U. Take a look at this tweet here. This was actually posted up by Pigs. It says, Metroid has made it to the top charts on the Wii U, showing right there Metroid Zero Mission and Metroid Fusion. Now, first of all, that is an absolute steal for either of those games at $7.99, considering what they're going for right now physically on eBay. I mean, if you have a Wii U and you can go ahead and plug it in, dust it off, go ahead and grab both of these. I mean, seriously, $16 for two high quality games is great. And of course, the biggest thing here is it'll give you a bit of a backstory to what's happening here with Metroid Dread, which leads me to my main point with this whole thing. I'm a little confused why Nintendo didn't think to themselves, hey, maybe we should get these games onto the Switch. Even if they move them up in price, people would probably check it out. Or maybe they get the Game Boy Advanced onto Nintendo Switch Online and these two games debut into that service. I think that would be the best way to go about it, because then hopefully more people would play it because it would just kind of be there added to your app. Then you would have Super Metroid, you'd have the, Metroid on the NES, but you might as well play, I guess, Zero Mission at that point, and at least Fusion. We'd still be missing, Samus Returns, but hey, that's something that should have released on the Switch anyway, back when it was first shown. Oh, and speaking of that one, check out the Amazon top charts for the 3DS. I can't imagine this is a very competitive scene right now, but still worth mentioning that it looks like, yes, Metroid Samus Returns has also jumped to the #1 spot, slightly edging out the #2 spot, which is 208 in one game cartridge. Someone may want to look into that, but anyway, Metroid Samus Returns there at #1. In fact, it appears that it has gone up slightly in price. It's generally around $50 or so, and then a little more for shipping. So for a 3DS game that came out back in 2017 now, yeah, that's continued to rise in value. But considering the 3DS market has started to move up, I mean, I guess that is expected. Either way, though, people are certainly interested now after seeing Metroid Dread as to what exactly is going on in Metroid Dread and why people are so excited. I've said this many times, and we saw this with some of the older Metroid games when I did polls on these, that people just have not played them. So I think it would be a good idea for Nintendo now more than ever to consider moving those games over, even if it's just by a title-by-title basis, and they put them up on the eShop for sale, and I'm sure they have a Game Boy Advanced emulator they could use if they needed to just kind of move it over onto the Switch, because at this point, Metroid Dread is starting to pull people in to where they're willing to turn on their Wii U. I mean, come on, Nintendo. They're turning on their Wii U to play some of these older Metroid titles. That should tell you all you need to know. Next up, let's talk about Mario Golf Super Rush. That is out today. I'm going to go ahead and pick it up because from what I've seen, it looks like a very mechanically sound arcade golf style game, of course, in the Mario Golf series. But let's head over here to Metacritic, where it's currently sitting at a 75, and that, I think, puts it as the lowest rated Mario Golf game. I know that puts it below World Tour, which was a 78, and I believe we had like the GameCube Mario Golf game that was, I think, at an 80 or an 81. Basically, this does appear to be on the lower end of the ratings for the Mario Golf games. The split currently is 32 positive and 16 mixed, and just kind of looking through a lot of the different reviews, it was certainly all over the place at times, as some said that they did enjoy the single player mode. Others said it was more like a longer tutorial to kind of catch you up on how the game itself works. And then you have your me who kind of progresses through the story and will gain different points to essentially level them up and make them a bit better at playing golf. But the biggest thing here that I noticed going through it is that it does feel like there is a lack of content at launch, and we already know Nintendo has said there will be free updates in the future, I assume, as we go through the next year or so. And it reminds me very much of something like Mario Tennis Aces, that when it came out, you could get through the game pretty quickly with the single player. It wasn't very long, and then you kind of look around and realize that there is a lack of content, but Nintendo did continue to add characters and different things to it as they went along, to where, hey, if you come back to it a couple years later, there is quite a bit of content to go through now, but you feel like, okay, when the game releases, you want as much as you can right there to make that first impression, or in this case, review score. Like, for example, I believe Mario Golf World Tour had 15 or 16 courses, whereas Mario Golf Super Rush has 6 courses, and there were points here that it wasn't like each one was significantly different than the other or overly creative, nothing like that. So unfortunately, it looks like you may pick this one up and kind of rely more or less on playing with friends to get the time out of this game, which is fine because the game does have online multiplayer. Speed Golf looks like a ton of fun, and it does have 2-player split screen for Speed Golf. So if you have a friend, you guys want to kind of play on the same TV, you can do that. So I'm going to still pick up Mario Golf because I really do enjoy Mario Golf games, and it's been a long time since the GameCube Mario Golf game that we've had one on consoles. So I'll be grabbing this, looking forward to, I'm sure, talking about it a bit more tomorrow on the Spawncast. Next up, let's talk about a big PlayStation rumor that is currently making the rounds ahead of what we assume to be some sort of big state of play so that Sony can talk a bit more about the rest of 2021. And this rumor has to do with Sucker Punch and Ghost of Tsushima, a game that came out last year and has done very well for the most part as a new IP, selling 6.5 million copies last we heard, with more than half the people who bought it actually beating it, which is good for an open world style game like that. I did enjoy it. I thought it did a great job of kind of mixing the elements of Way of the Samurai with Tenchu, and for the most part, I had a good time going through the open world and discovering new things, and I thought the ending was also pretty good. But let's talk about what Sucker Punch could be doing with this game going forward after the multiplayer that they surprised everyone with, and that apparently has to do with a standalone expansion. This over at Push Square says it's titled Ghost of Ikishima. It'll supposedly take place on the Japanese islands of Iki, which are south of Tsushima, just off the coast of mainland Japan. Word is that it's on track to launch this year. Now, the source of this rumor mostly originated from Xbox era founder Shepeshel Nick and a handful of tweets from other insider accounts. So I have seen some more and more people talking about this since it first got out online, and there are a lot of people who seem pretty confident that this is an actual thing and is slated to come out later this year. And you know what? It's not too surprising to hear about this from Sucker Punch based on what they've done with Infamous. For example, Infamous Second Son had the standalone expansion First Light. You didn't need Infamous Second Son to play it. You'd buy the expansion and go through that story on its own. So I think it would make sense for a new IP that's sold well to kind of get its own standalone expansion, a smaller game essentially like Uncharted Lost Legacy that you pick up, you play through, and it's something they could have in time, as they're saying here, for the holiday season to maybe go alongside of Horizon Forbidden West. I think if you have like a Ghost of Tsushima like standalone expansion and Horizon, that'd be a pretty good lineup right there. And then you start throwing the third-party games in the mix, and it does get pretty crowded for the PlayStation 5 lineup. But the biggest thing is we're all kind of hanging out waiting for Sony to talk about when they're going to talk about the rest of their 2021, and they could honestly announce it at any time because they're not following anyone else's schedules. I'm sure they could have shown up at E3 and streamed their own thing and set it all up, but as we've seen with Sony for years now at E3, they don't really want to take part in that. They want to kind of do their own thing. So I guess look out in possibly July from what we're hearing, specifically the first half, as for when Sony can wake up and start talking about games for the rest of their 2021. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Windows 11, specifically the gaming side of Windows 11, as Microsoft did unveil it fully yesterday in a presentation. Now, the new Windows 11 will be launching later this holiday as a free upgrade for anyone currently using Windows 10, and it does look like it has a couple of features attached to it that will be specific for Windows 11. One in particular is pretty interesting, I think, to PC gamers. We'll head over here. This is on news.xbox.com, where they start by talking about Auto HDR, saying a unique capability we're offering with Windows 11, which automatically adds high dynamic range or HDR enhancements to games built on DirectX 11 or higher that previously only leveraged standard dynamic range or SDR. This is something we've actually seen with the Xbox Series consoles already, where you would have auto HDR be used for even older Xbox 360 games. And that's some pretty cool effects at times. They go on further here to talk about a new feature, direct storage, saying with a high-performance NVMe SSD and the proper drivers, Windows 11 can soon load new games faster than ever, thanks to a breakthrough technology called direct storage. With direct storage, which will only be available with Windows 11, games can quickly load assets to the graphics card without bogging down the CPU. This means you'll get to experience incredibly detailed game worlds rendered at lightning speeds without long load times. Direct storage optimized Windows 11 PCs are configured with the hardware and drivers needed to enable this amazing experience. And then they go on a bit further to talk about how the Xbox Game Pass for PC, kind of the application they have for that, so you can open up and go through all of the Game Pass library, will be native to Windows 11. So it'll just come loaded with it and just be a part of that OS, which all of this obviously is important for Microsoft and their current vision for their Xbox and their PC side of things to kind of come together under one umbrella, that being Game Pass. Now, I do like the idea of direct storage because that's something that they have now natively added into the OS, which means developers should be able to take advantage of that as long as you are running Windows 11. Now, this isn't like the situation we've had before with, say, Windows Vista, where they had DirectX 10 attached to that specifically, and you had to pay to upgrade to it. This is just a free upgrade for anyone who has Windows 10 now. I assume it's just going to be like that going forward, because I do remember when Windows 7 had an upgrade to Windows 10, it was kind of time limited, and it was in like very small fine print that eventually we found out about from Microsoft. So we'll see more about Windows 11, I guess, as we get closer to its release later this holiday, but it was pretty cool to see some of the features around gaming outlined here over on Xbox.com. I'll leave a link to the press release down below in the sources if you wanted to read more. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, what month do you think Halo Infinite is releasing? It looks like most of you think it's either coming out in November or it's not coming out this year at all, with 38% voting for November and then 37% saying it's a 2022 game. And I do believe it's coming out this year. I get November. It's really going to come down to Call of Duty, because right now in November, they already have Forza Horizon 5. Let's say Call of Duty comes in like a week after Forza, like they're really cutting it close with Call of Duty, right? I could see Microsoft taking Halo and moving it up into like the first half of October, kind of avoid Battlefield, avoid Call of Duty, and avoid Forza Horizon 5. But you might be right here with this November vote if, say, Call of Duty comes out earlier in October and then Microsoft kind of slides Halo in around Forza Horizon 5 in November. It's going to be really interesting, though. But first, like I said, we got to find out when Call of Duty is coming out so we can find out when Halo is coming out. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Imran saying, yeah, what about the new Xbox controllers colors? Kind of cool they are doing a Space Jam theme. Yeah, I saw those, and you can see the controllers here. I mean, the purple one looks pretty cool, I guess, but the weird thing about this whole Space Jam thing, they're putting out a game, and you're thinking, oh, wow, okay, Space Jam. Maybe it's going to be like a knockoff NBA Jam game. That's what I immediately, like, my mind went to. No, it's a beat-em-up style game. Okay, I mean, it looks kind of retro-inspired. I guess that's a creative take on Space Jam, but yeah, we'll see how good this game is when it comes out. It certainly was something I wasn't expecting when I was kind of envisioning this game. Certainly not one where you run around as LeBron James and Bugs Bunny and just kind of beat people up. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here. Today was Metroid Dread, getting people to even dust off the Wii U so they can experience some of the history of 2D Metroid games. Do you think this could finally be the big breakout game that the Metroid franchise has been looking for? Let me know about that one. And then also, what about Mario Golf? Are you picking it up today? And then Ghost of Tsushima getting a standalone expansion. Is that something you'd be interested in this holiday? Thanks, guys, for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time for Newswave.